It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantatrax TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine, indeed. Welcome back to our weekly recap of everything Star Wars. We've got a whole load of news for you to discuss this week. So what have we got coming up on the show? First up, we're going to be talking Lucasfilm projects that were nominated at the 51st Annual Saturn Awards. We'll also take a look at Star Wars Nite coming back to Disneyland After Dark. Timeless Heroes, the Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford documentary, arrived on Disney+. And the week has been dominated by literature news. Mace Windu, The Glass Abyss, coming out as a novel in August of next year. And also coming out in comic form from Dark Horse Comics is the High Republic Adventures, Saber for Hire. We'll be checking both of those announcements out. And not much news in the film front this past week, but Godzilla Minus One director spoke about his desire to direct a Star Wars film. So we'll be discussing whether he would be a good pick for a future Star Wars project. And fan favourite character Kelleran Beq has also joined Galaxy of Heroes video game as well. So to discuss all this news and much, much more from Fantatrax, I'm joined by Ross. Welcome to the show, Ross.
Brian, great to be back again, and a fun little hodgepodge of information that we get to go over this week.
It is. It's been the quieter kind of news week, but there is some interesting little nuggets in there that kind of lays out a nice little future for what's happening, certainly on the literature front. And I guess lots to speculate on what's going to happen TV and film-wise as well. How's your week been, Ross?
It's been okay. Like, I apologize, a little bit under the weather, so I feel like I'm on the better side of that. But if I do have to dip away to use a Kleenex or sneeze, I apologize ahead of time.
Yeah.
But I was able to pick up a couple things. So there is the new Star Wars Insider here in the U.S. So no Mark Newbold, but a lot of the usual suspects writing in this episode or this issue, and I'm extra excited about the Dexter Jetster Exposed article. So that's always a favorite there. And then
there's also new fiction as well inside at the moment for High Republic fans as well. So that's always great to have as well, again, coming out in the
exactly.
magazine.
But then the big winner, right
Dawn
there,
of Rebellion.
So. And I guess some folks over in the UK got to meet Pablo Hidalgo and get them to sign this.
He was at Furthest From number 25 this weekend. Very rare convention appearance for Pablo, and pretty much an honour for him to come over to the UK to do it. I think it was the first time he actually got his hands on the finished book himself, believe it or not. So I think he was delighted to see the book there. And I saw on his social media as well, he was picking up some finds he found on the convention floor as well. It's one of the most fantastic vintage Star Wars shows out there, and he picked up some 1980s bootleg Hungarian Star Wars novels that came out. Weirdly, like the company that had the license in Hungary for the official novels used one of the translators to write original novels as well, and so there's like some weird and wonderful little bootleg books out there that always find themselves into the vintage shows, just that weird oddity from the 1980s. And so I'm sure Pablo would have been delighted to spot something as bizarre as that on the show floor as well. I saw him posting it to his social media.
Yeah, good for him to get out there and have some fun with folks. I think we've talked about this appearance a couple weeks ago, and it was cool to see it through his eyes, through the eyes of Fantatrax folks that are posting, through the Star Wars Sessions guys, as they're meeting Dennis Lawson and getting to talk to him a little bit as well. But just some good Star Wars roots, and I love seeing how many of you got to attend or at least share with Fantatrax so that we could see everything that was going on.
And I think the best thing about the sort of smaller regional shows as well is you've got that much more time to sort of interact with the guests. It's a much more I don't want to criticize the big shows either, but it's there's not such a conveyor belt to get through a signing or photograph opportunities. You've got a chance to stand there with Pablo, chat with him for 5-10 minutes about your shared love of Star Wars, because that's how Pablo ended up at Lucasfilm, was his love of Star Wars. So always great to talk about these guys, and just fantastic.
Yeah,
and
super
Mark
fun
there as well. He's talking about how busy it's been convention wise in the UK this weekend as well. So
it's good. Like it helps bring us into that holiday feeling of celebration, right? We're all getting to live it up a little bit more. I know that we also have Wonka opening up this week here, and I'm super excited to see that on Thursday night.
Yeah. You've kind of got so used to being huge big blockbusters coming out at Christmas. It's kind of become a tradition for Star Wars as well. Kind of miss it. Was it this year or was it next year that we were supposed to get Rogue Squadron? I think it was supposed to be this year. I think
maybe it was supposed to be this year. That's so long ago now.
Certainly, it was announced. I think it was announced 3 years ago. So
yeah.
I believe today, in fact, is actually 3 years from the Disney Investor Call, where they announced so many of the TV projects that were going on as well. And some like Lando was kind of maybe evolving into a movie. A Droid Story kind of not being mentioned very much, but if it's animation, maybe it's got a longer production schedule if it's still happening. But we've seen Andor has arrived. Acolyte is coming next year. We've had other things that weren't announced, like Skeleton Crew, that have appeared, and it's coming next year as well. Question mark, I guess, over at Andor season 2 as to whether it'll land next year. They've still got some filming to do. And I guess they're not going to announce when it's going to come out until everything's in the can and they can really project accurately. So.
Well, and I can say, as I've been knocked out on the couch here with cold medicine and cough medicine, I have watched rewatched the first 5 episodes of Andor, and as much as One Way Out is amazing, The Eye to me is the episode, and I just watched that again yesterday, and that was so fun to go back to, even knowing what's going on and the tension that was there. So. All that makes me want is season 2 to hurry up and come out.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mark, it was this year that Rogue Squadron was supposed to come out alongside a Trek film was supposed to come out on the same day. That would have been fun. I guess the other big rumour this week that's been up on some of the rumour sites was that season 4 of The Mandalorian may become a movie instead of a TV show. Speculation around that, nothing official from Lucasfilm at all, no word from anyone on the production about that at all. I think other than the people in production being excited about getting back making Star Wars TV again. Your thoughts on that? Would you prefer it as a TV show, or do you think a movie might be enough for a season 4?
You know, if it's done well
Yeah.
and they're just consistent with how things have been, I'll take it either way it comes. Like if it's a film, it's a extra special event that way.
Yeah.
If it's a series, what's
I
that?
was going to say, let the story drive the medium you use. Yeah.
Yeah, if it makes sense. If you need more, if it needs to be a 3.5-hour movie to tell the story the right way, you know, you probably want to make it into a streaming series.
Yeah.
But if it can be done in the 2 hours, whatever screen time they want to hit for Star Wars, if it works, then do it.
Yep.
You know, it's Dune. When Dune 1 came out, I could have sat there for another hour beyond the 3 hours. Like if it is a great film and I'm enjoying it, it doesn't matter how long it is. So whatever's going to make the most sense, but I just want to see those characters. And I think one way or the other, whether it's on the small screen or the big screen, it's going to be incredible.
Yeah. I think it'll probably be into the new year before we get any kind of official announcements on productions being back and up and running, and we'll get some clarity then. Because I think we have to acknowledge that with the strikes this year, that the studios can't even speak to a showrunner or a director whilst the strikes were going on. So conversations have only just begun in the last few weeks. So
and it's all ramping back up.
Yeah, there'll be lots of thoughts on everything on every side as to what they do and when they do it. And of course, look at just Pedro Pascal, for example, and the workload that he's got. So you've kind of got to fit using him around when he's available. And that depends on what your contract says in relation to other productions as well. There'll be a lot of issues, I think, in Hollywood at the moment as to getting the talent all available and lined up. They could be happy to go and produce something tomorrow and start, but if you can't get the talent together all at the same time, then it just becomes an impossible task.
Yeah, and it is that gold rush right now of we need this. Everyone needs new content. Everyone's got bare cupboards right now, so they need to restock.
One thing we never mentioned was the animation side. So Bad Batch, everyone's looking for a season 3.
I hope so. Like I would love to see that. I love those characters, and I love how much they have evolved from season 7 of the Clone Wars into what they are now. So they've taken huge steps. Wrecker to me was so annoying at the beginning, but then he grew up a little bit and started serving a more mentor role to Omega and vice versa. So I love the evolution of those characters. I'd love to see, as it starts getting more and more intense now, what they would do with the 3rd season.
Yeah. You kind of hope that the animation will still happen next year as well, on the basis that that part of the industry wasn't on strike. So the development of that should have continued. But we've not had anything official with regards to that either. Mr. Newbold chiming in that he thinks The Bad Batch was top tier Star Wars animation. Will show has developed into something very special. And he's also making a comment, a TV film's likely the easiest option if they're considering doing something with Mando Season 4, which again is an option. It doesn't have to be a cinematic release with the power they've got on Disney Plus as well.
But that big screen means everything. Like when I got to see that. It's
a communal part of it. That I think,
seeing that episode of Ahsoka in the theaters and seeing the Purgle come across on that big screen, that can't be replaced by the small screen by any stretch. I know that everyone who got to watch it on the small screen, it was a great episode too, but seeing that on the big screen was just like blow you away. So there is a little something to that, I feel.
Yeah. It's if you're watching like Star Wars TV in the UK, it's coming out at 8 a.m. in the morning, which isn't the best time to be watching Star Wars, and so I'm rushing about getting ready for work, and I have to be out of the house at 20 minutes to 9 to reach the work in time. So 40-minute episode is like, it's right on the money. So you're generally rushing around doing other things whilst trying to watch it, normally on an iPad or a phone. And I miss the communal aspect. And so one thing you kind of miss when it's on TV. And because not everyone's watching it at the same time, there's this hesitation and when can we discuss it? When can you bring it up? Because you want to discuss what's happened. It's like...
spoiler free.
So yeah, I haven't adapted to Star Wars on TV yet, I don't think. But yeah, it's... I'll get there. It's been a few years. I should be getting used to it. But yeah, I miss the big screen. And I would very much like, even if it's a season 4 and they say that's the end of it, at the end of season 4, it would be kind of cool if they did even a limited release in cinemas for the last 2 episodes and join them together or something like that. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, just something to add to the event a little bit.
Yeah, they kind of did, I guess, screenings for the launch of Ahsoka, which I think kind of did well. I think people were a little bit nervous as to if they should cover it because of the ongoing strikes and so on. Probably different for me sitting here in the UK because the equity, the equivalent of SAG in America, wasn't on strike, so you kind of felt a lot more comfortable being in the UK, being at that kind of events or covering that kind of events. But yeah, I kind of felt that worked really well. There was a really nice community to the launch of the series in that way. It's just a shame that the actors and directors and creators couldn't be there.
Right.
But yeah, definitely. Let's get stuck into this week's news though, because first up, TV does feature in it a little bit as well, because we're talking the Saturn 51st Annual Saturn Awards. Lucasfilm in a few categories there. Best Fantasy Film, Indiana Jones is in there. I don't think it's going to win against Barbie.
Yeah, no.
It's in terms of popularity, Barbie's, I think, has won that category hands down, I think.
Well, and I don't know if you saw it or how you feel about it. I really enjoyed Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, and I hope they continue that as well.
Yeah, I think Dungeons and Dragons falls into sort of same category as Indiana Jones, where good films just not seen by enough people. Haunted Mansion wasn't my cup of tea, and The Little Mermaid probably similar. I'm not the target audience, I think it would be fair to say.
Right.
But yeah, I think well done to Indiana Jones for getting in there on the nod, because I thought it was an unjustly criticised film. I thought it was a very well made film. I thought it stuck to the cores of what Indiana Jones is really well. And I really enjoyed it. There wasn't an aspect of it I didn't particularly enjoy. I thought maybe the ending was a little bit drawn out. I could have done without the whole scene with him back in his house, although having Marion back in that scene was fantastic. But it just kind of slowed down the ending for me a little bit. But other than that, I thought it was great. So yeah, probably not a Lucasfilm win for Best Fantasy Film. Barbie's probably got that hands down. In Best Limited Event Series, 2 Lucasfilm series appear in there: The Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm not surprised Obi-Wan's in there. Probably a little bit surprised the Book of Boba Fett made it into the category.
Yeah, that one's a little tougher, but maybe that's the power of Ming-Na Wen.
Yeah,
getting in there as well. So that's I'll give that little plug just because she's awesome. But it's again nice to see 2 of them in there. They're against some pretty strong Marvel shows.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Book of Boba Fett, there wasn't anything particularly wrong with it in terms of how it was made and how it was acted. I just think it was a storyline that didn't really connect. Obviously, Boba Fett's got a huge element of its fan base that's something in itself as part of the Star Wars fandom. So I think if you're going to deliver a Boba Fett series, it has to connect with that element of the fandom, and I think it just didn't. I really enjoyed the elements with him and the Tusken Raiders. I just didn't connect with.
Yeah.
I just didn't connect with it in terms of the storyline. With him taking the role of effectively Jabba's role, as being sort of
Yeah, and I loved them working in the Rancor component. I love them Grogu with the Rancor.
yeah. There
It
was
was
lots of nice elements. Yeah,
a little tough with the mod squad and having those nice shiny speeders on Tatooine that's so tough on anything that's out there that it just like that didn't seem to fit as well for me.
yeah,
But there was enough to enjoy in there that I enjoyed the series.
yeah. Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think, probably landed more favorably with people. I think a lot of it driven by the fact that people kind of loved the reaction of Ewan and Hayden sort of being back involved in Star Wars. I think probably both of them hesitant, and probably both of them enjoying the experience by being able to do conventions and getting such a positive reaction. I think they both probably held, I don't know if grudges is the right word, but sort of an element of ill feeling of some degree from the prequel trilogy.
Well, and it's that, and then young Leia,
Yes.
who she just crushed it. So again, Jimmy Smith again being able to get in and be Bail Organa, some great elements. Even getting the cameo from Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, like that to me, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think if you'd said to me there was going to be a young Leia in the series before the series started, I would have went, "Oh no, please don't." But such wonderfully delivered that it just worked perfectly. The double act between her and Obi-Wan was brilliant. And it was a series that did have faults, but I think it was very much a fan service series, and we all sort of came away very happy because we all sort of reconnected a little element with our childhood in the prequel trilogy, and it made a lot of healing, I think, for a lot of the unhappiness about a lot of things that were said and done around about the prequel trilogy, because a lot of people grow up in that is their Star Wars, where the original trilogy is my Star Wars, that is theirs, and again the same will probably be able to said in 20 years time about the sequels as well.
Yeah, and even being able to see kind of the Jedi Underground Railroad that they had, seeing Vader at some of his darkest levels that we've been able to see, that there were very cool elements, and there were certain little things that didn't quite hit maybe how they should have, but overall it was so enjoyable, and that's a really fun second and third watch as well.
Yeah, definitely. Best actor in a streaming series, Hugh McGregor gets a nod in that as well. Again, he's up against some tough competition in there, but it wouldn't surprise me if he picked it up. Popular actor, and it's a relatively popular show. I think he's probably you're looking at Tom Hiddleston or Oscar Isaac and perhaps stealing that category away from him. But yeah, I think probably deserved, I think, because he worked really hard, not just in front of the camera but behind it on that as well. And I didn't get to go to Celebration in Chicago, but I really enjoyed him being up on the live stage and the way he interacted with the crowd. It kind of felt you were literally watching someone reconnect with Star Wars, because he got involved not just because his uncle was involved in the Star Wars, because he was a fan. That's how he wanted to do the prequels, and I think he came out with an element of a bad taste off the back of the prequels, and I think he kind of reconnected with fandom as well. And I hope they get a season 2. Again, you need to find the right story to justify it, but it would be great to see him back on the screen. I think everyone would love to see Hayden again.
Yeah, and just in action. Like if he can just be doing things instead of it doesn't even need to be kind of the detective almost that he played a little bit more in this one, but just in action, showing, hey, I have the force flowing through me once again, and I'm using it.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Talking about fandom and community and all that kind of thing, Star Wars Nite back at Disneyland for Disneyland After Dark, from mid-April through mid-May at Disneyland Park. I've never been able to go to one of the official Star Wars nights, but I did go to one that was attached to Celebration, which I guess was maybe the instigator for this series, I guess.
Well, was this the one in Anaheim?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I went, that's the only one that I've been to. And it was fantastic having the Cantina band floating around on the raft on the water going by as you're going through, and so few people. I know some folks just hung out really in Batuu and Galaxy's Edge, but I was with Dan Zare and some people from the Coffee with Kenobi group, and we honestly rode everything in the park that night, and it was run here, run here, run here. So that was a great time, and I don't think there was a wrong way to approach it, and
No.
it was super fun. So I'm excited to see that this is back and they can build off of that, because it really is a fan driver, especially for fans that go above and beyond with this.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of the rumor, I guess, for Star Wars in Paris, it's not going to happen. They were supposed to be building not a Galaxy's Edge, but a Star Wars land element. But the rumors it was supposed to be getting built next to Frozen, which they're building just now. But the rumors is that it's not happening. So we're kind of waiting on official news there as to what's happening there. Paris has always kind of been this ugly sister to the Disney parks, I think. But it has been improving in recent years, so we'll wait to see what happens there. But yeah, I think anyone that can go along to a Star Wars night will truly enjoy it. I think the fireworks, the light show that they do is just next level, really.
Yeah, it's fun. It is, and it is when the fireworks are going off. You can look up at them and smile, or you can look around to everyone to your left and right and behind you, and just see everyone else smiling. And it's this childlike wonder, and that's what Star Wars should be doing for all of us.
Yeah, and Mark throwing in a comment there, bring back Star Wars weekends. They were great, unbelievable. Yeah, that would be fantastic. And that was taking over the whole theme park back then, not just a corner of it. So that would be very cool indeed. Bring that back. And there's so much they could do with the theme parks and Star Wars. And I was out there in Florida for the first time at Galaxy's Edge in October, and I came up with so many ideas of what they could add to it. And I keep saying they need to do something equivalent to the Cars ride in California, bring it across to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and convert it into pod racing.
Yeah, oh, that'd be awesome.
That would be so much fun, so much fun. But yeah, that's my tip. If Disney want to steal that, I won't charge them.
Just one free ride, right?
One free ride. Yeah, I don't want to have to keep. Come on, not the first time round. On Disney Plus this week from Lucasfilm as well, we had Timeless Heroes, the Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford documentary. If you're in the UK, you've probably got a few days to wait to see it. It'll drop on the 15th along with the Dial of Destiny. Have you had a chance to check out the documentary?
I haven't yet. I work at a university here, and this week, so last week was the end of classes. This week is the end of exams. And once the exams end, I can start shutting down a little bit. And that means sitting there and catching up on all these shows and just enjoying everything. So this is one that I have tucked away a little bit, but it's great to be able to read about this recap, know that it's someone who, again, as we have people who really want to get into the DNA of Lucasfilm, of Indiana Jones, of whatever, when you have someone who really cares, they're going to likely tell a better story. So that's what's fun to see about this filmmaker.
Yeah. I work behind the scenes for a food retailer, so December's like right off December, because all of a sudden you get 3 times the foot traffic in store, as everyone's gearing up for the holidays. So I haven't had a chance to actually sit down and watch it properly, but I've had it on in the background. Looks superb, and as I say, I was a fan of the movie. I thought it was a proper Indiana Jones film, and it kind of felt like a movie that didn't have the right promotion alongside it, and I kind of felt like some kind of promotion similar to this kind of documentary at the time that was on air in the cinema would have perhaps helped it, because you have to remember it was trying to find a new audience as well as its older audience like ourselves, and I don't think it quite caught the imaginations of either in the way it was promoted. And but this was like just a lovely documentary that just celebrates Indiana Jones, celebrates Harrison Ford and what's all involved in making it. So yeah, definitely one to watch over once you're past the work phase and you're in the holiday mode. Definitely that'll be a good one to watch.
Get all these hardworking students home and relaxing, and then I can start doing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell them, watch it as well.
Yes.
Literature's been the big thing this week. It's been the big cornerstone of Star Wars news. And we got an announcement from Random House, a new novel from writer Stephen Barnes, set between episodes 1 and 2, focusing on Mace Windu, and it's called The Glass Abyss, which a really striking cover to it as well, which I kind of love, which I think is going to look fantastic in print. I can't wait to see the colours popping off the cover there.
Well, and getting that purple lightsaber that Samuel had to have, and
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
super cool.
I just love that behind the scenes clips of him just talking to George about what kind of lightsaber colour he can have. Just that's the kind of thing that I think sells a movie more than anything, because that's when you can really see that an actor's connecting with the fandom, because as fans that's the kind of thing that we would obsess about if we were on in the lucky position of playing a Jedi in a Star Wars film. We would want to know precisely what kind of colour we're going to get in our lightsaber. So I love that.
And at this point, it would be the design of the hilt and everything, but it's that color is a big part.
Yeah. And are you a big fan of the Star Wars novels?
Oh yeah, like I love reading everything that comes through. I'm a little bit behind right now just because so much has come out, but this will be one, and especially because Qui-Gon Jinn is referenced and his relationship with Mace, and hey, I need you to do this for me type thing. So just kind of that honor and understanding between two Jedi Masters who, didn't necessarily see eye to eye, but even through the description, it talks about how Mace felt like that Qui-Gon balanced him. Yeah. So the idea of this playing out, getting some of the deeper layers of Mace through this, I think will be very exciting to learn more about his character, because it's at a very high level view that we get to meet him, even in the animation, but especially in the prequel movies.
And we talked about Ewan and Hayden sort of reconnecting with the prequel trilogy and actually seeing the love that people have for it. And I don't know, but I kind of speculate that is part of the incentive that Random House have looked at this and said, we really have a huge part of the fandom there, and we need to cater to that fandom. We're not doing anything on the prequels, let's do something. Because you've also got John Jackson Miller in his sort of Jedi Council-esque novel as well coming as well. So this is the second one we're getting in that kind of time frame. So, and I think that's what's great about Star Wars and the literature, is that you can jump straight into different elements of the timeline and cater to a huge wide range of fans as well, and introduce fans that maybe weren't fans of the prequels, or not that familiar with the prequels, because that's not what they grew up with. They maybe grew up with the Clone Wars, or even the sequels, and it brings them back. Let's go watch these movies and get understanding for these characters whilst we're reading the novels.
And I hope that Mace has the same wallet that Jules has in Pulp Fiction and carries that around with him.
Definitely. Also on the literature front, we've got news from Dark Horse Comics as well. They have a new miniseries coming, Saber for Hire, written by Cavan Scott. Rachel Stott is the artist on that as well, and it's going to be coming out next April. A four-issue miniseries, announced on StarWars.com. High Republic has just exploded into something that I think not even their wildest imaginations could have led them to believe it would be at the start. Obviously, they were really keen for it to succeed because they really got the Disney marketing behind it from the off. But the only way for it succeeds is if you connect with the fans. And I'm a big Star Wars literature fan. I have to admit, I'm behind on the High Republic because of just the sheer volume and finding the time to keep on top of it.
Amen.
But walking into Celebration in the panel and hearing the reaction for the creators on there, it was, and I keep saying it, and I mean this in the nicest way, it was like a cult. It was just incredible, the connection between the creators and the fans. Probably one of the loudest reactions at Celebration, I think, this year.
Yeah. Well, and then how great it was to see someone dressed as just a square rock and knowing, oh, it's Geode. This is awesome. So all of these different, it's some of that wonder that is brought back into Star Wars because, oh, this is a new area. We can bring new things into it. And then you're talking about a Kevin Scott who does such great horror stories anyway, and then bringing those into this character and getting those elements of, that Ahsoka characteristic of, what, I'm good, but I don't need to be this anymore. I can be driven the right way without having to be a part of this. So pushing those boundaries, and then just the artwork is amazing. We talked about the cover of the book for Mace. The cover of this looks unbelievable as well. And it looks like another, I'm assuming this is a lightsaber. It looks a little flatter, like almost like the dark saber. But we've got a lot of purple to that as well.
Yeah. And looking forward to that. Big fan of what Dark Horse are doing. Incredibly difficult to get hold of in the UK because of licensing issues to do with young reader comics and that sort of being tied to the publisher, Insider over here. So can be complicated to get your hands on it. Hopefully it comes out through Panini UK, and generally there's a huge delay before they're able to publish them as trades. But hopefully, fingers crossed, that it comes out in that manner. But very difficult to collect everything if you're UK bound at the moment. But we're kind of used to that. So we've got ways and means we've learned over the years.
How else is Han Solo going to have a job if he's not smuggling stuff like this?
That's it, absolutely. This is why we've got so many friends in America, Do you want to pick this up for me? Got to keep the trade going, and we'll find a way. Join Facebook groups. Star Wars Comics Facebook group's a great group if you're struggling to get comics. Fantastic community for helping each other out as collectors. Talking films now. I saw Godzilla -1. Amazing, loved it, fantastic. So I was thrilled when I heard that the director, well, he wasn't just the director, he was the VFX director as well as the writer of it, Takashi Yamazaki, was interested in making Star Wars because, he's made this for next to nothing at 15 million. It's like peanuts in Hollywood nowadays.
Right.
So you start thinking, what could you do if you gave him a huge budget? But I'm even against that. You don't need to do that. Give him the keys to make a direct to Disney Plus movie, or for example, on a budget like that, because that kind of budget's a single episode budget of some of the TV shows. See what he can do. You could actually do something pretty incredible, I think.
Oh yeah,
And it's possibly that kind of avenue, something that we're maybe not exploring at the moment in terms of Star Wars content. Do we have the opportunity to make low budget Star Wars movies that go direct to Disney Plus from creative talent like this? Very much in a similar mode to Gareth Edwards. In terms of the way that he was making films before he made Godzilla, and as Mark's pointed out there, another Godzilla director making Star Wars. Everyone loved Rogue One. Could this guy come in? Could he do something special, something completely different and off the chart in Star Wars?
Yeah, and I think there is that opportunity. It is, again, to me, it's always going to go back to kind of why I think Filoni is the creative director now. It is, are you Star Wars, or is this just something cool you'd like to do and put this notch in your bedpost?
Yeah.
Like, I want them to love Star Wars, not say, oh, this would be cool to do a Star Wars thing because that's a big name. If he cares about it, I bet he could do something amazing. But I don't want the hot director coming in not having Star Wars DNA or respecting the property as much.
And I kind of
some people may be fine, and that's good, but I think it works better when they care about it, and I think that's why the High Republic, and even though it's only comics and books so far, I think that's why that's doing so well, because that group cares.
Yeah. And part of me thinks that the fact that Rogue One worked was because John Knoll was involved incredibly tightly. And so you've got this similar with this guy as well, because he's got the VFX background. He was a VFX director on this as well. He could work incredibly well with ILM, and they could do something really interesting, as Mark says. Finite budget instigates inventiveness. Could you put him and ILM and say, like, what can you guys come up with that's just wild and different and crazy? And we talk about finite budgets. That's what George Lucas worked with, because when it was a private company, very limited budget, and every time he was making a Star Wars film, he was putting the company on the line, more or less.
That was his cash putting it up, so you had to make it count.
Yeah, definitely. So I'd be all up for doing something fun like that. And I would love to see almost a little bit more experimental feeling come back to Star Wars in some way. And you could almost do it in a similar way. You've got Star Wars Visions, where you're doing this on such a low budget. If you're doing it for 15-20 million per TV movie, let's say, that if it crashes and burns, it crashes and burns. But if you find something and something works, you've got a launch pad to jump off of.
Yep.
Don't think everything needs to be a 200-300 million pound project. So yeah, I'd be interested to see
every year we have those independent darlings that do something well because it was well written. It was something that the entire cast, crew, creators were all invested in. So it's a matter of getting that, and again, not just having someone say, "Oh, it's Star Wars, so it'll be cool." It's Star Wars, so I want to make it cool.
Yeah, and I guess the last story perhaps amplifies fandom, and fandom finding something that maybe that wasn't intended to be there, but finding something that they just fall in love with, and that is one Ahmed Best and Kelleran Beq, whose character is now joining the Galaxy of Heroes video game for mobiles, and character really created to be a host of a game show for Disney Plus when they were looking for what kind of content can we do, and took a guy who, let's face it, was downtrodden a little bit on the back of the prequels. We spoke about that so much on this show. And
who faced it more than anyone else we've talked about.
Yeah, and a character was just a nothing character that was there, and he's taken it, grabbed it by the horns. Fans fell in probably not so much in love with the character, but in love with him again, more than anything, I think. And then came back in as part of the Mandalorian in a very significant, timely role. And
Yeah, unbelievable.
so now you've kind of got all these companies thinking, yeah, we want him in the game because fans will want him in the game.
Yeah, and I think just more opportunities for him to show up. Like, is he going to show up in the Windu book?
Yeah,
absolutely. He was around then as well. So it so many things can happen now, and it is the fact that he's there, that he is, as some of the stage hosts were saying, given his flowers, presented his flowers, and being celebrated. But now it's not just a one-off. It's now he gets to get integrated into these stories, and who knows what can come out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about, as we say, it's all about driven by finding that jumping off point, and sometimes it's unexpected where that jumping off point comes from.
Yeah, and I think it's some of people had time away from the prequels and started realizing that, oh, this is Star Wars to some fans. So Jar Jar is different to some fans, but then hopefully it's maturation and understanding that level of empathy you get as you grow up to say, oh, I can't believe we went after this guy this hard because of a character he played, and he's working his tail off. And now, I mean, people love a redemption story, and that's really what this is, even though it wasn't his fault that he was viewed the other way first anyway.
Yeah.
Yep. He played a character that has reinvented filmmaking, and a lot of people lost track of that in the moment because it was new and they didn't love the character.
Yeah. And I think more than anything, he probably epitomizes the sort of overreaction to the prequels. Probably the same in the overreaction to the sequels that we're sort of going through now. Time will change that feelings and that emphasis, I think, as well.
Yeah. And everyone's so trained right now to be just so voracious with their opinion, and I need to be over the top about it. So it's, I try to take it all with a grain of salt and be a lot more level-headed with things. But also some people know that those clicks mean dollars, and if they can seem the most upset, people are going to click on it and want to carry their pitchforks and their torches as well.
Absolutely. So that covers this week's news. In the mail this week, I've got a couple of cool things. I'll share them with you as well. I picked up a couple of Japanese High Republic novels. This is the adaptation of Justina Ireland's Out of the Shadows. So that's been my Christmas treat for myself this week. Ordered them on Amazon in Japan, and they arrived incredibly quickly. So I like picking up the little bit weird and wonderful kind of things. I might have one more thing that might arrive just before Christmas that I've ordered, and I might be able to share on next week's show if it arrives in time.
Is that the life-size Wampa outfit for Newbold?
It should be, shouldn't it?
You guys can take that to Finland?
Yeah, when we go to Fence, and if we had a giant Wampa suit, that would be incredible, I think. But yeah, I'm going to be back next week. We're going to start doing a little bit reflective shows between now and the end of the year, just looking back at the year, and all the major Star Wars news stories from this past year. Ross, it's been fantastic having you back on the show. Always great fun talking Star Wars with you, and hope to have you back many, many times in 2024 as well.
Yeah. Just keep me in the loop. I'll be around, and love hanging out with you, Brian, and love this Fantha Tracks crew that we've got.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone, for joining the show, and we'll see you all next week. Good night.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on FanthaTracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at Fantha Tracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow Fantha Tracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live shows.